Citizenship in India and the Right to Overseas Voting by Dr. Komal Dahiya. Dr. Komal Dahiya is an assistant professor at Bennett University, Delhi. She obtained Master of Law, that is LLM, from Kurukshetra University and PhD in Law from BPS Mahila Vishwavidyalaya. She has published extensively both in national and international journals of repute and also presented papers at national and international conferences. She has 14 years of overall experience across academics and industry. Dr. Komal Dahiya's research areas include criminal brief introduction. Now I request Dr. Komal Dahiya to address the participants. Welcome you, madam. On behalf of Sakshi Media, I welcome
Thank
you.
you, Professor Reddy. Thank
Okay.
you for inviting me. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to interact with the students of Sakshi Media. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak to the students. And before I start, I really wanted everyone to participate also, because in between I'll be asking few questions, maybe, just for the confirmation whether, you're hearing or not hearing. So I think students
Madam,
would be
they will
okay with
participate,
that.
madam. Anusha, Ritika, these two are PhD students in our IFHE. They
Okay,
are
okay.
there.
Sure. Thank you
They
so
will
much,
participate.
sir.
Some other students are also there. Both of these students will participate. You can ask madam anything.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. And I really appreciate that students would be coming forward to answer my questions also. So, the topic which I'll be talking today would be citizenship in India and the right to overseas voting, challenges and prospect. So, the first thing which comes to my mind when I will be talking about, the right to overseas voting. From where did we get the word right? Are there some basic rights which are given to each and every individual, every human being, right from the beginning, right from the birth till the end? Is it? Okay. So basically, if we go back from the Second World War and when we had this, vast devastation of the basic human rights, we had this UDHR, which was specifically talking about the basic human rights, which are inalienable human rights to each one of us, each every individual. Right from the beginning, right when the child is born till he dies. These rights are something which he owes. Neither the government nor any other authority nor any individual can take away these basic rights from the individual. So as everybody know that UDHR document came into force in 1948. And after 1948 we got our independence also. So the forefathers of our, the country, the constitution makers had this thing in mind while framing the constitution, that these are certain basic rights which should be given to the each and every individual or to every citizen of the country. So basically, if we see the basic human rights or the basic fundamental rights can be divided, which can be seen running through the constitution also, can be divided into two. One is civil and political rights. The other one is economical and social rights. Civil and political rights are your fundamental rights, and your social and economic principle rights are the directive principles which are mentioned, which is a kind of responsibility upon the state to work for the welfare of the individual or to the citizens of the country. So this is something which we have, that is, so what is right to vote? If I am here in India, or if I am abroad also, do I have a right to vote? Can somebody answer me? Yes or no? If I'm here in India and if I go abroad for working, for my employment, or for my education, for any purpose, if I'm going outside the country, will that right be waived off from my side? Because those fundamental rights, what I just spoke is that nobody have the right to take away my those rights. So, right to vote is also a constitutional right which is given to the individual. That is, as we start with the preamble, we the people of India. So, it is our representatives who represent us in the parliament. So, when I am going abroad, will that mean that I have waived off my right? Or will the government have the authority or the liberty to take away my right? So today we'll be talking about these particular things only. Ki when somebody goes abroad, will that right be taken away by the government or by the election commission for not giving a right to the individual for voting for his or her own person of choice to represent in the parliament. So this is a background for the right to vote. That is, it being a constitutional right which cannot be taken away in any sense. But it would be, shocked to hear that, before 2010, there was no right which was given to non-resident Indian to cast a vote during the election. Now, who is a non-resident Indian? There is a difference if we go with taxation purpose also. So we have a resident, ordinary resident. So that have, 182 days. When somebody is here in India, he would be considered as an ordinary resident. But if someone who is not here in India for 182 days within a assessment year and is staying abroad for some employment or education purpose, will he still be considered as an ordinary resident? The answer would be no. But does that mean that his right to vote would be taken away by the authorities? Or by the authorities, because he is not present physically here in India. So this was a conflict which came before in 2010. Ki when somebody is going out just for the purpose of employment or for the studies, and till now he has not yet taken any citizenship of the country, of any other country, will he not be considered as a citizen to the country? If yes, then when every right is given to the citizen of the country to cast a vote for him, his own person of his choice, then why this right is not given to the people who have gone abroad for any specific purpose? So this was something which came before us in 2010. But please remember that before 2010, we did not had any, the NRIs did not had an option to cast a vote for their choice. But now coming to 2010, what option the government came forward for resolving this issue, because this was something which was raised because they also wanted their representation. Like there are certain things which happen to them even if they are abroad. So if they participate in the voting, so at least they would be helping the government, they would be helping the state to formulate policies which will also help those people who are staying abroad. Because sometimes there might be certain emergencies where they'll have to take the help of embassy. But what is the representation which is given or which is provided to the people who are staying outside the country? So these were certain issues which came before. If the right should be given, how that right can be accessed, how they should be given the liberty or the opportunity to cast their vote. Because 2010 says ki yes, they have the right to cast a vote, but yes, they'll have to go with the process where they'll have to register themselves as the elector. After that, confirmation from the nodal officer, plus on the date of the election, they'll have to be present in the constituency to which they belong. To which they belong means the address which is mentioned in their passport. Though there was a little relaxation which says the EPIC ID is not required for the person who is staying abroad. The reason being, Because when you go out and if you're not here within for the last 6 months, generally your name is deleted from the electoral roll. So there you need not to re-register yourself for the Epic ID. But yes, if you have a valid passport, you'll have to get the valid passport along with the CA form, which you have to fill before coming on the day of the election. So this was the process which we had. So now coming to my slides, this was a basic or a brief overview of which we would be discussing and what was the challenge from time to time, right from the beginning till what we have reached today. That today also there is a petition which is pending before the Supreme Court also regarding the rights and the participation of overseas citizens also for the policy making and the other things in the country. So this is what we have already discussed. That is, the fundamental rights or the basic human rights are the inalienable rights. It is not only the UDHR, but there are different conventions or the documents which specifically talk about these rights. If we talk about the International Convention on Civil and Economic Political Rights, Economic Social Rights in 1966, optional protocol, and various other conventions which specifically talk about the human rights. So here, these also specifically talk about the civil and political rights also. So this being a civil right and a constitutional right as per the Constitution of India also. So here, like I already mentioned that, right to vote, we the people of, please don't forget, we the people of. So it is our representation which we as a citizen appoint the people to represent us in the parliament, to raise our voice in the parliament so that everyone is heard equally. Because here we don't have any autocratic system or dictatorship system. It is a democracy. So democracy says that the representative should be chosen amongst the people of the country by the people of the country itself. And other than the constitution, if you refer to section 19 of Representation of People Act, it also says that, as per 20, that non-resident Indian can also be a elector for casting the vote, because till now he has not attained the citizenship of any other country. So nobody can restrict the person for casting the vote. So section 20A of the law also says that, he has the right to cast a vote. But 2010, we did not had anything. After that also there was a solution, but the solution was just in the picture, because now we'll be coming to the data also ki how even if somebody was allowed to vote, why person who is staying in Australia would come to cast a vote for spending 3 lakhs in the traveling. So it is not something which is feasible for each one of us to travel from abroad, especially to cast a vote. So now who is overseas electors? An overseas elector is a person who is a citizen of India, who still owes the citizenship of the country and who has not acquired the citizenship of any other country and is otherwise eligible to be registered as a voter, and who is absenting from his place of ordinary residence in India owing to his employment, education, or otherwise, is eligible to be registered as a voter in the constituency in which his place of residence in India, as mentioned in his passport, is located. According to the provisions of Section 20A of the Representation of the People's Act, an NRI settled in foreign land can become an electoral in electoral law in India. For enrollment under this provision, an application has to be made in Form 6A. So the right, the opportunity to get registered was given in 2010, but before that there was certain procedure which was supposed to be complied with the by the elector for voting on the particular day of the election. So that is filling up of form 6A for getting an opportunity to vote. It could be done through email or through post also, but it is something which is to be done before the date of election. So at least 5 days before, the nodal officer should receive your 6A form. Then only you will be allowed to go and cast, vote for your own candidate or the person of your choice. Now comes, what is the importance when somebody who is not being a part of the country, who the policies or any other thing which does not matter too much to the person, though he is still being a citizen, but why his vote is important for the election, why he needs to be given a, if I'm talking about the importance, so there are countries which have, created a dummy district for, casting the vote or getting the votes from the people or the citizens of their country who are staying out, so that even those people can have their own representation, because the people who are staying outside the country does find certain things difficult. So when they have their own representation through any individual or through their persons, they have the opportunity to represent, to tell someone that this is something which we are facing today, and can somebody come up and suggest some kind of suggestion. Like there might be situations where deportation may happen, there might be any kind of violence which may happen, like abhi recently we had seen this Bangladesh incident which happened, or ethnic hostilities by leveraging their home countries diplomatic channels. So this is the reason why, the right to vote should be there with these overseas people also. Along with this also, when it comes to the country itself and its own diplomatic relationship with the other country, so when people know that your people are recognized in your casting the vote, so it would be easy for the government to have those particular relationship, because if you go to some particular country, to particular state, you'll find that there are more people from your own country which contribute to the GDP of that particular state or the country. So even in the other relationship, foreign relationship with the country, other countries, if these people are given representation, that will automatically strengthen the relationship of the country with the others economically and otherwise also. So this is the reason why we had to have. Now coming to the background, this is what exactly happened. Before 2010, as I am already talking about, that there was no right which was given to an individual to cast a vote. But after that, it was say, because 6 months says that, they are going with the 182 days, which is mentioned in the taxation law also. After 2010, when we say that, it was only after, when somebody has spent more than 6 months in any other country would be, eligible to vote, because his name is already deleted from the electoral roll of the state, whether it is the legislative elections, either the state wala elections. So in that situation, the the amendment was very much clear that now they are eligible to cast their vote. But yes, they'll have to produce the passport, plus they'll have to, you know, be available physically here on the date of the election. So this was a big challenge for everyone. Though people showed an interest for, casting the vote, coming, matlab, कि we would love to participate in the elections, but when this came as a solution, so if you can see the numbers, that it was only 11,846 people who were registered in 2014, and the number went to 2019 But if you see the ratio of turning up for the voters was only 1%. That only 1% people came and casted their vote on that particular day. As everybody is aware of that, when it comes to financial responsibility also, so the relaxation should come from the government itself. If you really want your people to participate, to have a democracy, then you should have some basic things which would help them to participate also. So this was something which discouraged people to come and cast. So this happened. After this, if you see, there were different steps, there were different suggestions, because this was something which was raised in the Supreme Court also. So Supreme Court directed the government also to come up with certain suggestions how we can encourage these overseas people to cast their vote without costing them too much. So this was something which they had to cope up with that with this. So there was some, bill which was introduced in 2018 in the parliament for the proxy voting. What is proxy voting now? Can somebody answer me? What is proxy voting? What is when you go to a class? I hope everybody has gone to the college also. When you go for a class, and if somebody is not, if your friend is not attending, so sometimes you make a proxy for the person. So here also, there were suggestions, or the bill suggested that let us have a proxy voting for the person who cannot be physically present here to cast the vote. But then again, this question was challenged, though the bill lapsed. It did not came into existence. They did not came into force also. But if you talk about the proxy voting also, if I say something to Professor Reddy, Professor, please vote for this particular person. How is the assurance that Professor Reddy would be casting the vote for my own person whom I am telling him to vote? Because now things are in his hand. He has his own choice. He might would say that, yes, I have casted a vote for the person whom you told me to do, but I am not here to cross check. So this was a big challenge before the government also. Ki when we are giving them an opportunity to participate, at the same time, how would you say that it happened fairly without any biasedness? So there were certain, suggestions ki what all things should be there. Like even if you go to Election Commission of India ka portal, so they have written that it would be elector portal system which would be launched for the NRIs to cast their vote. So now coming to the things which was suggested, ki if you really wanted them to participate, how can you do that? So proxy voting was one which was introduced, but it lapsed. It did not work. Then there came a suggestion, like if you see how the government officers cast their vote, because at the day of the election they are on duty, but that does not mean they are not given the right, or their right is waived off for casting the vote. They are given the opportunity to cast, but the mechanism which is adopted by or for them to cast their vote is little different. Can somebody tell me what is that mechanism? No? So basically, we call it electronically transmitted postal ballot system. So it was in 2016 which was allowed for service voters. So here, electronically, when you are a registered service voter, a link, a email is shared to you where you have been shared with the form along with the declaration form plus the mandate on the ballot, and set it to the that once you receive, so within 5-6 days you'll have to revert that ballot to the returning officer of your constituency by ordinary emailing. That is, so the same thing plus the declaration form that yes, the vote is, or the electronically transmitted postal ballot belongs to me, should be attached with the email. So the same kind of suggestion is made for the NRIs also. Okay, if somebody really wanted to vote, let you inform the matlab, the email, the ballot plus the declaration form should be sent. But before that, how would you keep a track of the people who have gone abroad, plus to which constituency they would be belonging to? So in that situation, the suggestion or the recommendation could be, before they leave the country, a basic or a list can be maintained by the government itself about the constituency and the name of the person and to which country the person is going to. So it becomes easy for the government also when it comes to election to refer or to approach these people for casting their vote. So the same suggestion is made for the NRIs also. When it comes to electoral ballot, so the same process which is adopted for the service voters can be adopted for the NRIs also. This could be a fair, because here the person himself is casting his vote. But इसमें भी there would be certain limitations ki how, and the process, how would you be knowing that the person would be returning, when lot of restrictions and limitations regard to physical existence or the work which would be required, plus the manpower which will be required here. So let us see, but this is the one which is there on the Election Commission of India's website also, that tentatively they will be going. Though they were supposed to start with this electoral ballot system before 2024 elections, Lok Sabha elections, but I did not know, or the government policy, it got delayed. But we can see this in the coming elections for the state constituencies or the next Lok Sabha elections. We would assume that this would be there. Then comes online voting. Let us have a online voting system for these voters. But there also, because when it comes to cyber, so cyber security would be a big challenge. Hacking, lot of other things which happen online. So online voting would have its own limitations also. Plus the accessibility, plus the bulk loading of the portal or the software which would help, for casting the votes. Though this is something which is used by a few countries for their NRI people when it comes to voting for the elections. So this is what is generally suggested. But electoral ballot is the one which the election commission is going with, because these are certain suggestions, the prospects, how we can make them participate in the voting. But at the same time, there would be certain challenges also for these particular things, like proxy voting. I just told you that, how would you be assured the person who is casting the proxy vote for the person would be going with the same which is suggested or which is recommended by the person? Okay. So this was something which was said no to it. Then 20, it was the election commission which wrote to law ministry also, to that they are ready to facilitate this electoral ballot system, and soon we will be able to see that also. But there were suggestions also, can we have the voting in the embassy area? But the same thing again, lot of logistic and agent, lot of manpower would be required at the staff, and if we cannot provide the staff, it would be some kind of overburdening to the embassy people only. So this is what it is all about. But that does not mean, when we have challenges that where we had to make certain efforts, certain facilities to facilitate these overseas voters to cast their vote, because right to vote is their right also, and that cannot be taken away by anyone. Plus, with the new technologies, I think this is something which is possible also. So let's try and let's see how and when this thing can be executed by the government of India also. Thank you.